Hey, I'm from West Virginia. A lot of people don't know that we're a state, but we are. You're looking at the west side of Charleston, West Virginia. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our state. This is our state flag, and as you can see, it says State of West Virginia. It's actual state. You can see there's a mountaineer. Here's the mountaineer. And there's a coal miner. Here's a coal miner. Then it shows the birth date of our state, which is June 20th, 1863. This right here is a map of West Virginia. Virginia is southeast of West Virginia. So all you need to really know is about Virginia and West Virginia is that we split up during the Civil War. It's a long story and it has a lot of different tells. But looking at this map, you can see, look at that. There's West Virginia. So whenever West Virginians try to tell where they're from, they use their hands like this. We're not flipping you off. We're just trying to tell you where we're from. This is a map of my county that I'm from and live. It's Kanawha County. Kanawha is what we call it here, Kanawha. A lot of people from out of the area, you can tell if they're from out of the area because they say Kanawha. We call it Kanawha. It's a Native American word. And as you can see where it's at on the map? This is where it's at on my hand. So whenever somebody asks where I'm from, I say Kanawha County right here, Charleston. So this is the Kanawha River. And that down there is Charleston. That down there is South Charleston. There's a chemical plant over there. Which was a lot of industry back from the 50s on. It's kind of died down a little bit. There's an interchange up there on the interstate. There's 3 different interstates you can get on up. As you can see, there's a bunch of hills. We are the mountain state, the mountain mama. Take you home, country roads. This is some West Virginia woods. It's what probably 80% of the state looks like. See, we're all in a holler. Hollow is what a lot of people call it. But as you can see, there's mountains and creeks and car parts from getting stuck down here. This is some country roads. Getting out of the holler. fast food joints that we really like. I'll show you the menu once we get up there. Church just let out. Talking about food makes me think of culture. So one of the things that a lot of people in West Virginia, their ancestors do, and it's been handed down, is making quilts. So this is a quilt my mama made for my papa, and I really like it. All the quilts have names. This is just a square quilt. I just like it because it was my papa's, who is my grandpa. A lot of people around here call their grandma mama and their grandpa papa. Here is another quilt that my mama made, and this one I know is called a snowball quilt. So she made this, and as you can see, it looks like snowballs. Here's another quilt, and this is a quilt that my brother, who has a different father than me, his grandma made. And I'm not sure what this one's called, but this is one of hers. Her name was Juanita. This is a quilt. It's a butterfly quilt, and that's by Juanita. And a lot of times the women would get together and have quilting parties, and people would bring in their scraps, their scrap fabric, and everybody would pitch in and they would just have fun sewing, building a quilt, because it's more like building than it is sewing. And they would just sit around and talk and play cards, and this was one thing that women would often do, and I'm sure men sometimes would partake. And quilts are a big deal for us, at least in my family. They're heirlooms, so they get passed down, and sometimes it causes fights about who gets which quilt. And here's another quilt that Juanita made. So this is some of the art, I would call it art, that West Virginians traditionally create. Another medium of art that West Virginia really likes is music. And it's like every other place, I think. Everybody likes music. But contrary to popular belief, our state song is called West Virginia Hills. So it's the West Virginia hills, how majestic and how grand, with the summit's passion glory like our Prince Emmanuel's land. Is it any wonder then that my heart with rapture thrills as I stand once more with loved ones on those West Virginia hills? Oh, the hills, beautiful hills, how I love those West Virginia hills. If for sea or land I roam, still I think of happy home and my friends among the West Virginia hills. That's our state song. But then Hazel Dickens, she wrote a song that sounded a lot like, well, it didn't sound a lot like it, but she wrote a song that said a lot of the things that was wrote in that song. And it's West Virginia, oh my home. West Virginia's where I belong. In dead of the night and still in the quiet, I slip away like a bird in flight back to those hills, the place that I call home. So that's Hazel Dickens, and she basically wrote West Virginia Hills, but more contemporary for folk music at the time. So yeah, so John Denver didn't even know he was in West Virginia when he was riding through. A lot of that song isn't even about West Virginia. So that's a quick generic rundown of West Virginia, and I apologize if it was any cringe, my song. I'm not the spokesperson for West Virginia, and I know other people's perceptions and experiences are different with our beautiful state, and I would like to correct some of my statements that I made that I found to be untrue while I was editing this video. And if there's more, sorry. Kanawha may be the pronunciation that the Piscataway Indians used, and some people think it was canal. The chemical plants that are in the Kanawha Valley, they've been here since World War II, not the 1950s. So they've been before then. There's more art in West Virginia that we like and that we produce. Some of it's woodworking and dancing and painting and storytelling, and there's more. Yeah, so those are some things that I knew was wrong. So our hills are very important to us. They have sculpted our lifestyle throughout history. They make us feel safe. They're the first thing we see when we wake up, and they're the last thing we see when we turn in at night. So there's a lot more to West Virginia, but like I said earlier, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about West Virginia.